Hey, this is Kip Weston. I've had a lifelong fascination with adventure, whether that's climbing, mountaineering, or even diving into history. I'm obsessed with uncovering stories from extraordinary people, people who break from the average and become outliers. Now I want to share their stories with you. This episode, I'm speaking with Charlie Schreiber. Charlie is an insanely talented and passionate climber, coach, and route setter. He's a climbing World Cup competitor twice over, has sent V13 and 514A, and is a practice climbing coach of 14 years. Charlie has an incredible grasp of how to recognize, train through, and overcome the physical and mental hurdles related to climbing. I was struck by how open Charlie was in sharing his relationship over time with both climbing and coaching throughout our conversation. I highly recommend checking out Charlie's socials through Paradigm Climbing Coaching. I'll link it in the description below. So, let's get into it. How does being a route setter and a coach change how you watch climbing?
How does it change how I watch climbing? Well, I think I'm default programmed somewhat to be looking for like all of the points that I would be looking at if I were the athlete's coach, if I were analyzing movement of the Olympics and giving feedback to the athletes, or just, demonstrating what my feedback would be to viewers or friends, anyone that's inquiring. So I definitely had some commentary that I was giving to people around me while I was watching. And then route setting, same thing. Looking for all of the artistic beauty of the boulders that would be something that I'd be proud of if I set, or something that I really respect when I'm looking at an event and see something that's a really gorgeous looking boulder, but also something that moves very well and achieves the goal of separation, but also challenging the climbers on multiple disciplines and styles. I think that balance is something that we're always looking for and around, is that we actually get to see the climbers tested on many different things, and that the tests are basically valid and aren't unfair to the field that are presented with it. So I do think that as a coach who obsesses over movement, and as a setter of more than a decade that's also obsessed with all of the aspects of setting for competition and just in general, commercially, that I do have a deeper level of insight, I think, that allows me to appreciate both the role that the athletes are playing and the people that make the event possible, but also the coaches that have been working with the athletes, or whoever is responsible. It's the athlete and many people that support the athlete for their skill and technical prowess and physical capabilities. But it's hard, without talking to the coaches, there's not much to gain insight wise as to their programming. You just know that they put in the work they needed, and that they're well-rounded in multiple aspects.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I can't imagine the challenge of finding the Goldilocks zone at that level of something that's hits all those points you were talking about. The aesthetics, the style, checking all those boxes has got to be incredibly hard.
And then making sure that the boulder's toppable, but at multiple points, it's also going to be highly difficult. And we'll have people falling, but not all at the same point. And you want to make things that can be doable, but not too hard in a 4-minute round. It's a real challenge.
Yeah. So you've been climbing for 17 years, coaching for 13. Mm-hmm. How did you get introduced to climbing?
Well, I was actually a jock, complete jock. I was on the travel school club rec teams for baseball, basketball, and soccer. And that was my life.
And where's home for you?
Home is in North Jersey, in Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey. But now I live in Old Bridge, New Jersey with my wife. And I was a skater also at the time. I was 13 and loved skateboarding. It was like my, ability to be artistic through movement, and be, not confined to a team sport, and play when I want. When I am playing in this, on the team, can basically create your own playtime and do whatever you want to do. Really, there's no limits. And then I needed a new helmet for skating, and we were driving by the old skate shop, which was where the current day Gravity Vault is. of Upper Saddle River, the climbing gym. I went in there to get a new helmet, and it was a climbing gym. And I still remember to this day, I've never felt this feeling again in my life about anything. Walking in there, I saw it, and upon seeing it, I just had this feeling of, this is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. I can't imagine that anything could be more designed for my brain. It was just so visually stimulating. I instantly saw that there were different climbs that were, I saw somebody setting the first time I went in, which was blowing my mind. I asked them, are they following a plan? They said, no, he's just movement, putting it on the wall. It's whatever he feels. And they change it all the time, and you have to solve them like puzzles. I just like, well, this is literally the coolest thing ever possible. I want to do this forever. And my parents let me. So
Cue the angelic music.
literally, yeah.
That's awesome. I think there's so many similarities to skateboarding and bouldering. We just fall. Okay, I did something. Okay, on to the next one.
Yeah, totally. And every single one's different. Every setup is different. You're using the same body, similar moves, but the small differences are what make it beautiful. Got to do it all.
Why do you think bouldering clicked with your personality? You said your brain so well. Like, what made it scratch that itch?
So from a very young age, I have been obsessed. My favorite word is create. Anytime I see the word create, growing up, create, like in school, the word create is in the description of the, whatever thing we're doing, whatever, writing assignment or any assignment, my brain would just go on fire. Like I always drew as a kid. I'm still an artist, and I used to make games. I used to create different rules for games, create languages. I used to create different like riddles and challenges just out of thin air and from different ideas. And the idea of being able to basically create your own movement, create your own beta. I also have ADHD, so creating my own ideas looking up at a sport route. It's just so much time for my brain to be going and formulating and trying. And you're stuck up there working on this climb. You can't be moving around. You can't, I want to do this one, but I want to try that one and that one and that one. It's just, you can move so much faster. And I felt like bouldering allows for much more variation in movement. You can just be, the moves are just so much more radical and wild and unique, and at least from my experiences when I was growing up. So it kind of conditioned me to love bouldering. And I just making up climbs, which is so much easier when you're bouldering than when you're rope climbing. So, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. And then, so you climb for 3 years and then get into coaching?
Yeah.
So what are
was really, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go for it. No, what were you going to say?
I was just looking to see what made you want to get into coaching.
I don't know what made me want to initially get into it. I don't think there was any, like, initially I want to get into coaching. It just started happening where I got really lucky in the beginning. I had a string of fantastic coaches, just like some of the best in the country, helped me in the very beginning. So I progressed very quickly. Also, the kids that were my age in my category that I climbed with were like second and fourth in the country at the time. So to me, that was who I was chasing. So I went from V0 to V8 in a year, and then went from V8 to V11 in the next year, and then was climbing like V11, V12 by year 3. And that was huge. That was like, really fast acceleration upwards through the sport. And by the age of 16, I was giving private lessons to the people that were at the gym because I could do every climb. I had beta for every climb. So whenever I'd go in there, I'm also a social butterfly. So I talked to everybody, every adult, every kid, like whoever was there. And I love just talking, helping, making explaining an idea. I guess I was just lucky enough to have parents that were good examples of how to speak eloquently and convey ideas properly. And I just found that it was easy for me to pass on knowledge. I love teaching. I love watching people succeed because of something that I helped with. It feels like a success of your own. So it became addicting. And I gave lessons to a couple of kids, a couple of adults, wrote some training programs, noticed that they were successful, and just kept going with it. There was no, like, maybe I'll do this. I just kept doing it and haven't stopped doing it.
Gosh, I'm just struck by how perfect of an outlet you found with bouldering and coaching.
Crazy, right?
It's fit your, like you said, your personality and your interests so well.
Yeah, I definitely count my blessings often.
Could you talk about your own competitive experience with climbing?
Sure. What do you want to know about it?
I mean, you've competed at pretty high level for a while now. What do you get most nervous for events? Or do you get nervous?
I definitely get nervous. Everybody gets nervous. I get the most nervous at events that I don't know if I am strong enough to achieve the result that I want, given the magnitude of the competition.
Yeah.
So, I went to my first World Cup and I knew that I was not prepared. And I was really, really nervous. I knew I was going to walk out there and not get the result that I wanted. And, you're basically, when that happens, you're hoping that you're a miracle. Like I'm not injured, but I'm definitely not at peak. I'm not feeling great in my training recently. I wish I had another month to prepare, but here we are. This is a big investment. I'm flying halfway across the world with my parents. They're supporting me. I'm going to Switzerland. I'm in front of all of the best athletes in the entire world. This is my, World Cup debut.
And how old are you when this is going on?
23, I think. 23.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is not going to go how I want it to go. Is how it felt. And this is going to be, I'm 99% sure this is going to be a disappointment and not something I'm proud of. And I wish this was going differently. So I was very nervous going into my first event, and it showed, because I did horribly for my standards. And I mean, I literally got dead last. I got 115 out of 115, but it taught me a good lesson on how not to prepare for events like that internationally. And the next event I went to, I got 49th, which was a good upgrade from 115th. So training properly is key.
Yeah. What's it like qualifying for the World Cup?
So you have to just do
'Cause
well enough.
You've been in 2, right?
Yeah, I competed too. That year you had to compete at adult nationals and have a high enough ranking to be able to apply to go. I competed, I applied, and I think there were many people that applied, but they only accepted a certain number of people based off of ranking. So I got like 21st that year, missed semifinals by 1. I was the one guy out right on the edge, but that was enough to qualify.
Changed with your mental game going into the second one.
So your mental game going into a competition is a direct function of how many successes have you had on something that's highly relevant to the event. So if I'm going into a competition and I know that I'm physically in amazing shape, right? Like I'm feeling great body wise, but I haven't been doing things that are like the event. I've just been climbing outside. I might have great confidence for outside, but I know I don't have many successes that are highly relevant to competition style climbing. So I'm not going to feel as confident as if I felt the same way physically, but I was having all of these recent successes on comp style boulders inside. So I made sure to set myself ample terrain and climbs in the gym to be highly specific to like the off balance, very intense and uncomfortable style that was at the European World Cup that I was in, as I knew like the setting team would be the same in the US, and made sure to make them multiple levels where it was like I could warm up and gain really fast muscle memory, and then things that were just at my limit but a tiny bit below, and then things that were at my limit and a tiny bit above, to be good gauges of like I'm progressing. This was at my limit, and now I can do it for laps, and basically just wrote down all my successes through my training. So my brain only knew I'm successful at comp style. I'm successful at managing uncomfortable positions. I am successful. I'm strong. I do this. And when I went out there, I did it. I sent 2 of the boulders and zoned on everything but 1. And that was way better than my 1 zone in the previous comp.
What an awesome answer. It's so cool to hear like actual tactical. I did XYZ.
Yeah, I knew I might only get this one chance, so went for it.
What's the relationship like with other competitors when you do an event at the competition?
Yeah, at that level of competition, if you're a newcomer like I was, you don't really, I mean, you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
People don't know you. Like you don't, you because possibly a threat, I think. Generally, climbing is really not competitive. Like no one's intense in ISO and mean
Yeah.
towards each other. Not that I've ever seen, at least. But I definitely felt like I was a bit of an outsider in that element. Whereas at nationals, I knew like 80 people in the room, and it was just fun and way less intense. But at Worlds, I was also a bit intimidated. So.
Yeah.
It's competitive, certainly competitive, but you can see top competitors from around the world joking and being friends with each other in ISO. Like they're probably best friends with all the European competitors that get to travel and climb together. Have been known each other since they were kids. So yeah, it's cool.
Would you describe yourself as a competitive person?
Oh yeah, highly competitive.
Yeah.
Extremely competitive. Yeah, always have been. I'm not like a dad. Like I'm not, those people that when they lose, freak out, throw a tantrum, make up bad excuses or put people down or sabotage, like nothing like that. I'm lucky. I've been a good sport about it my whole life, but yeah, I really want to be the best. I want to win.
Yeah. Were your parents big on that? Being having good sportsmanship and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what, always had to congratulate the other team
Yeah.
every time, show other team's hand, smile, because it's, at the end of the day, they always said at the end of the day, the person who loses is the one that everyone thinks is a sore loser. That's the person who actually loses. If you're a sore loser and everyone thinks you're a sore loser, if people don't think you're a good sport, doesn't matter. You lost, you compete, you don't compete. That's your life. That's your experience. That's how you leave the experience no matter what. You can't be a gloater either when you win. You shake everyone's hand no matter what and just keep moving.
Yeah.
That's the reason we do it is for the experience. It's not for the victory. That's what we think we might be doing it for, but so we have a great experience and we, have self-growth. That's it. And that's part of the experience.
And climbing's such an interesting sport in the sense that the overtly competitive parts are very elective.
Yeah, definitely.
And you almost can't fit win or lose in the traditional climbing vocabulary. Like, do you lose a route by falling? That doesn't really make sense.
Right.
You just can, right? I mean, maybe you could lose a flash, but
that's it. Yeah, you only lose when you give up permanently. And
yeah.
even then, you can look at that as you can look at it in many different ways. Why did you give up? Why did what was your mindset change? Was it based on physical, are you preserving yourself physically? Is it not right now? Like you're saying no, not like right now because of something going on in your life. It's yeah. Even in competitions, you're not like I've come in third in comps and felt fantastic because I know for myself I climbed beautifully that day, and I truly don't think I could have done any better.
Yeah. Has that level of introspection in your own climbing performance changed as you've gotten older?
Well, it changes based on, I think, where you are in your career and like what previous successes you've had. If you're not careful, because in the beginning, when you're a kid, you're coming up. Like from when I was like 16 till 20, I was on the up and up, and it was like every year I was doing better and better and better and better, and it was like I had no pressure. I'm literally the kid. Everyone's older, and I'm like, it's no expectations for me to win. But when you win a lot and people know you're the winner, now when a new name comes in, it's kind of like, hold on, whoa, winner. No, you're not. That's what's expected of me. Like if I don't win, it's a loss. And if you're at the same level of competition, so it really, when you get old, I felt a lot of pressure personally to keep winning. And when younger people came in, and it felt like, I've gotten hurt a couple times now. I'm definitely not a kid anymore. I'm not at the level I wish I was. I haven't been progressing at the same rate because I've been dealing with injuries, and now I'm getting beaten by 16-year-olds. This isn't as fun anymore. I lose. I have the game goes from at a certain point, everything to gain to everything to lose. And it definitely is less fun when you have more obligations in life and the time commitment to competitions, like training for them, and also just honestly participating, because it's a full day event. And the day before the event, you usually have to travel for big ones, or even 2 days before sometimes. So it's like, I'm now in 10 events per year where I have won this in the past, or I know that the people that I'm going up against are people that I very well could beat. And, if I don't win, it's going to be a disappointment. And if I do win, it's going to be great. But, I know I should win. And when you don't, and it's, you basically feel like you can't control your training as well, or you're just not able to live the same life that you were living before, where you had much less stress, you didn't have as much anxiety around competing as much. It makes it much more exciting and fantastic, I think, to go out and go to the comps. It's more pure. It really changed over time. I think as I got older, it also became more of like, I'm not the strongest anymore. I'm not accelerating upwards at the same rate because I have so many other things I'm working on in life. And honestly, like winning competitions, like winning a couple more, not at the top of my priority list. And if I don't do so well, it's okay. I don't do that because I'm also a coach and I'm respected in many other ways. So I've tried to get back in. I left competing on a win. It was great. And then I came back in thinking, you know what, man, I'm feeling good, feeling healthy, and I've got nothing to lose. I'm a great coach, and even if I don't win, I'm respected as a coach. But I went in there and I expected to just have fun, and I was killing it. And the second something went wrong, and I realized I wasn't going to win that comp, the old stress came right back, and regret for even going in the competition, and yeah. So for that reason, I think I've retired from comps until I can confidently know that if I want to go back and do it, it'll just be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just a level of I'm just so impressed with that level of introspection around the sport.
Yeah, it's forced on you, man. When it's an
Yeah.
individual sport, it's you have to. It's all you're thinking about is you, in your own
Yeah.
mind.
Talk to me about so those highs and lows you're describing, how is that mirrored or different when you're coaching someone? If you see them go through a big win, what's how that level of elation to your own successes, or if they lose, what would that be like?
So when the losses do not hurt as much, nearly
Yeah.
as much. The wins they feel better to a certain degree, and the wins when it's somebody else, it's interesting because it's when you win a competition in climbing, I don't know why I always used to feel this. There was always a little bit of pressure still on you or placed on you. You win, and it's like, all right, you're the best one here. And it's sometimes you feel an imposter syndrome because it's like, I'm not the best one here, but on those boulders tonight, like I guess I fell less or I got a little further based on a beta change. And so sometimes they can feel like, am I the best? I don't know. But when you do it for somebody else and you know that someone else has achieved a result that they really wanted, regardless of if they are the best or not, we had a goal. At some point in the process, we admit you wanted to win this competition or achieve a really high result in number wise. That is part of the discussion. We always do strive for improvements. That's really the only way to make sure you are going to improve and leave happy. But when you achieve the goal, it feels like a pure win as a coach. I did my job. I supported you. You did everything out there that we've been talking about, and that was fantastic. It feels amazing. I mean, especially when it's like a multi-year process with a kid that you've taken from day one, and now they're the national champion. That was the best feeling I've ever felt. You're kind of immortalized as a coach that has coached a national champion. That doesn't, you basically, people aren't expecting, like, over the years, your coaching skills to wane. That doesn't happen. They get better. But as an athlete, that it's fleeting. My victory, well, at one point I was the best, but next year either I compete and I win again and maintain, or I compete and I don't, and now I'm not the national champ. I'm not the best anymore. Or why did he retire early? Why did he stop? What happened? He was the best that year, but now I don't know. So it feels better in a way. I wouldn't say it's more pure. I really get excited when my athletes achieve great results, and I stay excited for a long time. And there don't seem to be many of those other aspects that could be construed as negative. So I think I enjoy watching my athletes win more than I like winning. Yeah, I do.
That's how you know you're in the right career.
Yeah, luckily didn't go pro. That would have been tough. Lots of pressure to always perform.
How do you coach the mental game? Or is that something that just comes, like you said, with experience and wins? Is that something a coach can help with?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way for me to really answer this question in one paragraph, honestly, because there's just the mental game. There are 1,000 aspects of the mental game. The way to coach the mental game is to have a very, very open dialogue. Be honest. I think you have to be, as a coach, highly vulnerable. Like, I'm, as a previous athlete and someone who's still pursuing, a very active career as a climber, it allows me a special opportunity to open up and be honest in my own mental struggles and my own practices, and it really explain what the process is like, truly, because 90% of coaches don't. They go through like one dimension of mental struggles as like an amateur climber, and it's great, but unless you've been there and gone through the whole ringer as an athlete, you don't know. You know what it's like, and you can't actually offer insight. You can't even offer your own anecdotal experience as somebody that has gone through it and has experienced, high quality mental training and mental practices, or things like just in podcasts you hear spoken about, but you really don't know how to actually put it into practice. And there's by far the most undervalued aspect in coaching. People just talk about it. They try like very low hanging, easy methods of, drill prescribing that really just, like, without constant feedback and following up and dialogues and discussions of like, how effective is this? Did you do it? How did you do it? Where's your documentation? Like, explain, tell me about that. Let's get on a call. Like, if you're not doing that constantly, and you're not really, really making it highly specific, talking about exactly what you need to be doing, how did that work? Were you actually saying these things? Were you actually saying these things? Oh, okay. So you said you were, but you really weren't in the way that is appropriate. I mean, it's just athletes will fib. Most of them will fib and say they were doing stuff, especially the mental training. When you get down to it, it's like, if you, the result would have been different. You wouldn't have looked like that out there. You would have done the thing that we've been talking about doing in the moment. I just think it's like a job for coaches. It's like 50 to 100% of the game in scenarios and points of the year. And especially like time wise with an athlete. Like, if you're a coach and you're there and an athlete's doing a certain type of training, like with every type of training, there's a different role that the coach plays in their involvement. Like, am I giving critiques in form right now? Am I organizing and scheduling for the athlete? Like, am I just like the clock? Like, that's a huge role. Like, that's an important role. Or am I just here to be a mental guide? Like, where's your head at right now? Challenge their thought process the whole time. What are you saying to yourself? Write it down. Let me see. Okay, now tell it to me. What are you feeling? Oh, there's a difference here. So what's the truth? What do you really feel? What do you really, like, you have to get in there and like, I want to like cry. Like, let's both cry right now. I've had that with a bunch of athletes. Like, you're crying. This is freaking awesome. Like the fact you're feeling this tells us so much. Okay, let's get into it because because I know like how many times have I been there during a session and I'm just bawling my eyes out. It's so much pressure. I'm not meeting my expectations. I'm just so tired of all of the failure and the shortcomings. I'm so tired of being by myself. I'm so tired of not being as good as the other people. Like, let it out. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What's the right thing to do about it? And they're kids. A lot of them are kids or adults that just started the sport. How long have you been doing this? Oh, I've been doing it a while. What's a while? Like 3 years. Oh, so you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea how to handle your emotions within this particular space. It's a lot.
Oh man, I love hearing you talk about this. It's just fun to hear someone competent and passionate, something you know really well.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm dealing with it right now.
If I share my screen, can you see it? I'd love to show you your own reels.
Sure.
Yep. I
Sure.
want to talk about these V13s you sent.
Oh, okay.
Are you able to see this?
Of course. Moisty.
So this is a video of you sending Moisty Maisie. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
It's a V13, and in the description you talk about it's basically, it sounds like your triumphant return to climbing. You take a little break and you come back and send a V13, and I'll link it in the description below, but it's awesome to watch because it's a full range of emotions in a 30-second clip. Do you remember climbing this pretty
Oh, yeah.
vividly?
I'm here right now. I'm here in Africa. I'm going to go show my friend this tomorrow, hopefully.
This is one of these climbs where it looks like you can only do it if you've been bit by a radioactive bug. You need superpowers to do this. It's so impressive,
stop.
man.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I definitely I think I needed that climb to get over a big mental hurdle. I know it sounds almost like cheating, accepting who you are, where you are as a climber. But I think some people, honestly, in life, like, you look at everyone's journey. I don't think there are many journeys aside from like the diehard romantic stories of like, somebody that's gone through just the hardest life possible and they just battle their way to the top. I have not had that life. Trust me, that has not been me. But I have dealt with a vicious demon in my own mind that is, I work harder than everyone else out there. And I was a past overtrainer. I knew I was working harder because I asked everybody, what are you doing? It's not as much as I was doing. I was doing too much for too long. And it worked when I was young. That's why I excelled so quickly. But once my body had enough accumulated fatigue, I was setting so much, I was climbing so much, I was training so much, I wasn't sleeping, had insomnia, just driving myself nuts for years, trying to break through this limit that just felt like, all my friends are getting there and they don't really train as hard. And I'm the only one that hasn't been able to get there. And it was a mark I set for myself a while ago to achieve. And I just kept putting all these other things in front of it and almost like using them as an excuse to not go all in and do the right things and make other different types of sacrifices rather than just work harder. And achieving that goal was huge for honestly gaining a certain level of respect and confidence in myself and who I was as a climber, who I was as a coach. I am grateful that I was able to finish that climb, as corny as that sounds.
No, it's cool. It's a cool climb, but it's worth it just to watch your range of emotion as you climb it.
I knew that if I did it, it would open up a floodgate of emotions.
Yeah, it's beautiful to watch.
Highly
Do you have any like superstitions you do before a comp?
No, I used to wear a lucky shirt until I lost it, and then I had these lucky pants until I noticed that I had crazy swamp ass when I would wear them, and everyone could see it. But I stopped wearing those real fast.
So back
No,
on
sorry.
coaching, can you talk about where coach can make the most physical change in a client?
So you're talking about in their movement or
Yeah.
in their physical body, change their physical body with them and for them.
Oh, I was thinking just movement, but
And so you're asking me, in what way can the coach change the athlete's physical movement?
I'm thinking of the average boulderer, and in my mind, it's someone that sends V3, sometimes V4, and they're like, oh, okay, I don't really know what to do next. I've never really been taught technique or footwork, but I can kind of move my way up the sport and I'm enjoying it. Why should that person get a coach, and where could they have realistic expectations to move towards?
Oh, okay. So the question is, where does the progression opportunity lie in a coach, in hiring a
Yeah.
coach? So coaches play three major roles, and the number one is feedback. What is it? What do you look like, and what does the ideal look like for any situation you're engaging in? Here's what I see, and here's what you need to do. Okay, here's the difference. That's not right, because in that there's another aspect, which is education. So this is what what you're doing. Here's what you need to be doing, and here's why. Because this move is arranged in this way, you need to be aware of the fact that that suggests that you should do this. What you're doing doesn't work because this hold is facing this way, that foot's facing that way, and that's the reason why it doesn't work. So now this is how we're going to change it. In order to change it, you need to approach it like this instead. And then the third aspect of movement is, it kind of ties into the two, is an explaining of concepts that somebody does not know about. So there's working within the mental space of the athlete. So based on what I know let's work with what you know so that we can be effective here. And now there's another space of, you're a V4 climber, let's say. I see you're a V4 climber. You have, let's say, anywhere between V4 to V6 movement knowledge because you've been watching some climbing videos. Now, with what you're seeing in the climbing videos, you're only able to pick up things that are just above your ability level because it's easier to associate and draw the connection. Now, putting that into practice, that's pretty tough. That's another job of the coach, is to prescribe and offer drills that are going to be the ideal form of training in order to ingrain the proper movement mechanics into an athlete and to teach them, right, through their own movement practice on their own. I gave you a drill, execute it. We'll talk about the efficacy and how well you did it. Then the explaining of concepts is, I see you're a V4 climber. Now, on V4s, you can use V17 movement, right, and technique to make a V4 feel like a V1. Now, there are you can only understand up to V6 and really associate that on your own. It's my job as the coach to now introduce all of the other highly advanced techniques and then explain what that is. Like, what are you not aware of that you will eventually figure out down the line through your own experience, or not? You're not a very highly observant person. You're not obsessed with this. What are the concepts that you're not going to interact with anytime soon that I can just give you to speed up your process through technical practice and proficiency? It's really explaining all the things that I know you're not going to learn on your own. And if I can arm you with all of the knowledge of a V17 climber with a V4 body, we can basically average that out. Now you're going to be able to move within many different highly technical positions and be able to handle those, go through the learning process faster, and then we just have to worry about your physical development. The more your development is based off of just physical improvements, and obviously muscle memory through the techniques. But if you're not aware of something, you can't improve it.
That's awesome. These are great.
Yeah.
This is really helpful for me, especially. What would you say are some of the best exercises someone can do to improve climbing that aren't climbing?
Okay, so not climbing, meaning you're not on.
If I'm just
You're
in the
just not
weight
on
room
the
in the gym, what should I be doing?
Dude, there's no. Well, we're talking about best things. Anything that involves finger strength training.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
you take that over anything, everything and anything. If you can't go climbing, hangboard, or
Yeah.
do anything that requires your forearms and fingers to be engaged. After that, it's just like, I mean, the real answer is it 100% depends on the athlete. Even what I just said, the finger strength, it's like, if somebody comes to me and it's like, okay, dude, I'm climbing V14, but my fingers are V17 strong. I can't get the distance to these other holds because straight up because I don't have the arm power. I don't have any arm strength. It's
Yeah.
pathetic. I can do one body weight pull up. Okay, whoa. So the most important aspect of climbing, finger strength, it's maxed out. That's why you're climbing V14. But if you want to get to V17, it seems that the gap exists within your arms. So we should target the arms. If I get somebody who's just an absolute monster in their arms and fingers, and they can campus V14, but the second you put them on a movement that requires high leg intelligence and foot intelligence and posterior chain activation and keeping their feet on and using them properly like arms, I'm going to give you a drill that really challenges your legs, targets the posterior chain, not just in a pure strength way, but really through an applicable method of training it. Some more like, so anything that's more climbing specific than just a single movement, concentric or eccentric, resistance training method like leg curls or even deadlifting. And there are just so many other methods of training all these different things. This is why this question is so hard. It depends on the athlete. It depends on their goals. It depends on the situation.
Who are some of your favorite climbers to watch climb?
Like individual human beings or like type of people. Okay, individual human beings. My number one favorite climber to watch climb is Mori. I think she's the most entertaining climber on the planet. I just think that power is basically out of the equation. So all of her climbing is just technical mastery, and she floats, and she has such a great disposition on her face. Like she's just mellow, like neutral. She doesn't show many emotions at all. She's just there to climb, and the things she does are just unbelievable. Her fingers are like steel. She obeys like all of the perfect laws of movement. It's just amazing to watch her climb. I also obviously love watching anybody that fights their face off. My athlete, Austin Hoyt, is, I think, the most entertaining climber I've ever seen, ever. If you've never seen Austin compete, I highly recommend watching videos. He's so fast and explosive and coordinated, and he tries harder than anybody. He screams, he's super emotional, he's entertaining, and he's also just a fantastic mover on the wall. I honestly love watching Austin. Adam Andra, and anyone that's just a technical high up on the technical mastery spectrum, that's the most entertaining to me. But also the people that are masters of any aspect of the sport. Meji's a master of coordination and power. He's super entertaining to watch. Mia is just a robot. She's the best.
Absolutely insane.
All around athlete. She's endlessly entertaining. Honestly, though, sometimes in competition, she's so good that you don't get to see her anywhere near her max. So it's almost like a little. I mean, it's so entertaining to watch her in comparison to all the other women in the world. You see, like, the top 6 women, sans Yanya, you struggle on this ridiculously hard boulder, and then she comes out and makes it look like a V3 warm-up. It's like, it does a disservice to the climb because it, like, you can't tell how hard it really is. It looks so easy, but it's also just like, oh my gosh, how? But I've always said it would be really, really cool if just once they put Yanya in the men's field. Just once. I think she would do really well.
They've always had that joke about putting like a normal person in the Olympics as like the control group.
Yeah, oh my gosh. It wouldn't even be, they wouldn't establish on anything.
They wouldn't even get one hold in. It's funny just because of watching with some friends and family who don't really know anything about climbing.
Yeah.
They kind of have that impression, like, oh, why didn't they get that hold? It's like, oh, because it's an overhang
You can't
crimp.
yeah, exactly. Because you're so far from even being able to fathom what's occurring in front of you that you
Yeah.
have just so far from even like beginner climbers are just so far from understanding. You have to be very close to the level to understand how hard something is. Even when you are like V5, V6 climber and you're looking at a V12, you're like, what the hell? This is impossible. Like until you're a V12 climber, you can't even really understand how freaking hard it is and why it's so hard. Yeah, they're onions. This sport is just full of onions, like layers.
Hey, will you humor me and do some speed round questions with me?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I just drank some caffeine, so I'm ready.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
First up, least favorite climbing.
Wait, you froze. You are frozen.
Check.
Kip, come in, Kip.
Test. Can you hear me?
There you are. You're
Okay.
back. Yeah.
What's your least favorite climbing hold?
Ooh, I would have to say there's this slot. There's a slot set that one of the companies makes. I forget who makes it. Oh my gosh. I should know this. But basically within the set of like 10 holds, I can't get my fingers in any of them. I can get my fingers in like 2. And it's just ridiculous.
So it's like a pocket.
It's a slot. It's a full-on slot, and I have 6'8" sized hands. I'm 5'10", and they're also very thick. So I just slots all around are my least favorite. I also my cuticles, I don't know if you can see, are just torn up because of the slots out here. I bleed so much on slots all the time. The gushing. Multiple fingers. Not fun.
TC or degree? Scuba or skydive?
I don't like either. I skydove and got the belly, a bad pain in my stomach from that fall, like butterflies. And then my face really hurt because it was super cold out. I got a bad headache. It was beautiful and exhilarating, but I didn't enjoy it. And then scuba diving, I would love to, but my only fear in this world is of dark, murky water, and it's terrifying. Going like full scuba, snorkeling, psyched.
Yep.
Love snorkeling. Scuba, the only way I would go is if there was 10 people around me and lots of light.
And you're in a pool.
Yeah. And I was in a pool or like a reef. I would go in like a Great Barrier Reef, any reef with a lot of people. Yeah.
I think I know the answer to this one, but tea or coffee?
Oh, coffee.
Yeah,
definitely. Come on.
How many cups do you think you have a day?
I only have like one. I have 1 cup of coffee, sometimes 2, very rare. But I'll consume other forms of caffeine after that if I go climbing.
Cats or dogs?
Sorry, I took a sip of my drink. Dogs, not even close. And then whatever the next question is, answer is dogs.
Do you have pets?
I don't personally own one, but the dog that my family has owned is 17 years old, and she is that's the number one woman in my life, Mackenzie.
Yeah.
She is my everything. I have an insanely strong connection to dogs.
Oh my gosh.
But
So she's been alive as long as you've been climbing almost.
She has. We've owned her longer than I've actually been climbing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, playing music outdoors. Yes or no?
Situational. Yep. If people are around, don't do it. But if you know you're the only ones there, it's just you and the boys, you and some people, and you're vibing. I just don't. I think playing it obnoxiously loud is ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing that, regardless. But like, just lighting up the boulder with some music and creating a good experience there is. I don't think it's a huge deal. Like people that get very upset, it's like, if you go camping in the forest and you're having conversation with many people loudly and you're laughing and joking, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But the only difference is you're not risking a forest fire and polluting the air with smoke. And
Last question is, where can people find you? Where can we find your coaching services? Where can we find you on Instagrams?
You can go to paradigmclimbing.com for everything that is my coaching and go through the website, or even better is DM me through Instagram. at paradigm_climbing_coaching.
Awesome.
That's it.
Thanks so much, man.
Hope you enjoyed this conversation. Subscribe to this channel for future interviews. Check out Charlie's coaching offerings and socials in the description below.